Hi, everybody, and welcome to opening day here of the Auto Meet at the Great Race Place. My name is Tom Quigley. I'll be your seminar host for the next 37 minutes, and my special guest today, you hear his voice describe the race action every single day here at Santa Anita, but you don't see him on camera very much. There's a reason why. Everybody, welcome in Frank Mirahmadi. Frankie, welcome home and welcome to the Great Race Place.
Thank you, Tom. Happy opening day to you. This is a very special time here at Santa Anita Park, and we're happy that everyone has tuned in to kick off a spectacular 18-day meet.
Now, summer is over, but you had kind of a busy summer. You were back at Monmouth Park calling the races, and there was also some news that developed back east concerning you as well.
Yes, this was my last of 8 seasons at Monmouth Park. Great people over there, treated me extremely well, and I was offered the job at Saratoga Racecourse, and certainly very honored to take that position. There could be nothing better, of course. I'm at my favorite place in the world, let alone racetrack, in Santa Anita, so to have Saratoga as well, I think the word Saratoga says it all. I'm very excited and certainly very thankful to Santa Anita Parks Management. My agreement at Santa Anita states that before I go anywhere else, they have to sign off on it. And thankfully, I got the green light from Mr. Aidan Butler and Nate Newby and Amy Zimmerman, all very happy for me. And we're ready to, go over there and take care of business.
I mean, let's face it, Frank, you hit lotto when it comes to racetrack announcers, right? But the key ingredient is you're an overnight success 25 years later, right? I don't know the exact year when you started calling races, but you plied your trade at a lot of places that people have either never been to, never heard of. It's been a struggle to get to the top, but of course, it's well worth it, the struggles you undertook in order to get to this point in your career.
No question. Called my first race. It'll be 30 years, Tom, in December. And that was at Hollywood Park, closing day in 1992. Didn't get my first job until 1996, so several years later at Hialeah Park. And I wrote down all the tracks I've been to. And I think I've called races at a little over 30 racetracks in the United States, at least 20 of them as their actual track announcer. So my friend, the late, great Luke Kripos, when I got the Hialeah job, he had told me, Tom, that he liked announcers who went through their conditions, and I kind of jumped to Hialeah. Well, after Hialeah, I went straight to the Downs at Santa Fe and Atticad Park and Bluegrass Downs and some other places to go through those conditions, Turf Paradise, Louisiana Downs, Oaklawn, so on and so forth. So it's been a very fulfilling ascent to get these opportunities. And the key is, there's a lot of responsibility with that. It's a different story of coming out here as a fan, as a little kid, which I always reflect on when I drive through, just as I did today, to see that iconic Santa Anita sign. Have so many memories that just constantly run through my mind, and the opportunities to come out here and the friends who brought me out here and my dad and my mom and all that. So now my job is to, what I do if I was to identify what my job description is, it's very simple, Tom. Celebrate winners. That's what I do. Whoever wins, I'm on your side, and I'm looking forward to enjoying that success with you, and ideally painting the accurate picture so that when you watch that replay, it's something that is something you enjoy. And so I try to keep that in mind with every race, is that it's all about those connections, and it's all about their moment, and it's all about celebrating the winners. And I'm very honored, and certainly, a lot of people use that word humbled, but I have to be humbled to have these opportunities. And so the key is, come with the fastball.
You're incredibly talented, Frank, and it's an honor having you call the races here at Santa Anita. And of course, our gift to Naira is that you'll be calling the races at Saratoga as well. You'll have a blast over there. 2 of the premier tracks anywhere in the world, much less in North America. So congratulations on behalf of all of us, including all the racing fans watching as well.
Appreciate you, man. I have a great fan base. They've been so kind to me. So I certainly appreciate it. And I realize that, Saratoga, you're in a frying pan for 40 days. You got to come with it every day. But look, this is Santa Anita. You got to come with it here too. So hopefully no smelling salts needed to be on the top of my game.
Speaking of racing, I know that you pay attention to racing all around the country. And of course, to me, being a West Coast homer, the premier race was the Pacific Classic and the performance that Flightline put forth for trainer John Sadler and Ronis Racing. Your observations, your description of what transpired when Flightline smoked them by 20 lengths.
Well, before his debut, Terry Finley of West Point Thoroughbred sent me a message on Twitter saying, we're about to unleash a very special colt. And so I remember his debut very well. And
do those impact your race calls when you get texts like that? In other words, are you kind of keeping an eye on him? Maybe
I have to keep an eye. Yes, and I actually told someone today who was trying to tell me he had all these great picks for me at Santa Anita this week, and I'm like, I really don't want to hear anyone's picks. There was a friend of mine who I've known for 30 years telling me who he needed in some maiden race when I filled in for a couple of days at Saratoga. I said, this race will be forever known as the race you needed, number 8. Please don't ever send me that stuff again before the race. I'd like to have the open, clear mind. Clear. Right. But with the fact that Terry Finley sent me the note on Flightline, I was certainly keeping an eye on him. And he's by Tappet. And so when you see him going around the turn with that kind of blazing speed, I remember that moment past the 3/8 toward the 5/16. I'm like, holy cow, this horse can run. And then in the run Happy Malibu, he put on a display for the ages. And it's very important not to get carried away with the superlatives. As Trevor Denman once told me in this very studio, there was a horse named Prime Timber running, and I had worked on the show here filling in on the Fox shows way back when in like 97 or 98. And Trevor told me that day, be careful, because I talked about Prime Timber was in the nightcap, talked about his talent, and he said, be careful with those superlatives. You know, they're not all great. And so it's something I always keep in mind. Before you start piping off about how great and impressive everything is, keep everything in proper context. And with the case of Flightline, certainly, you know, much like American Pharaoh's Arkansas Derby, where it was just an immediate burst, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, what is that? It happened in the Run Happy Malibu for him after his amazing maiden victory. And, you know, it was certainly...
You don't see it every day.
You don't see it every day. And, you know, I think Trevor's call in the Pacific Classic was perfect in that he just said, you're not going to see this every day. Trevor, if you watch, you know, you want to talk about the greatness of Trevor Denman, and anytime we talk about my career, I always like to clarify very quickly and succinctly that my career has been inspired by the brilliance of Trevor Denman at this very racetrack. And, you know, you want to look at great calls of his, go look at Flightline's debut. Go look at Songbird's debut. Not necessarily the big race once it's already known. He knows what he's looking at. And so what I've tried to do and emulate in my career is to try to see what it is. From the moment I watched him in the grandstand here, what is it that he is seeing and how does he know? And it's something I never thought I could understand, let alone try to duplicate at any level. And certainly I couldn't warm Trevor up on my best day, but nevertheless, I've learned from him and his greatness in watching what beauty is on the racetrack. And if you watch his maiden calls of those two horses, Flightline and Songbird, you see why he's in a league of his own when it comes to race colors.
Speaking of warming up, we're just getting warmed up. We're going to take a quick break. Frank's going to give us the early program changes. When we return, we'll go through today's 9-race card and hopefully give you a win or two. Stay tuned for the changes from Frank.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to opening day of the autumn meet at Santa Anita Park. The track is fast. The turf course is firm. The rail on the turf is out 20 feet. Here are the early changes. The first race is the start of the 50-cent early pick 5. No scratches or jockey changes in race 1. In the second, start of the early pick 4. No scratches or jockey changes. In the third, we have the program scratch of number 1, Penny's Ready. The fourth race is the start of the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. No changes in race 4. In the fifth, start of the 50-cent Late Pick 5. Just the blinker note. In the sixth race, beginning of the 50-cent Late Pick 4, number 1, Dashing Demi, 2 pounds over. In the seventh race, just the blinker notes. Eighth race, scratch number 5, Spite and Malice. Race 8, scratch number 5. The eighth race is the beginning of the Golden Hour Pick 4, linking the last 2 races from Santa Anita Park with the last 2 from Golden Gate Fields. And in today's 9th race, started the $5 Golden Hour Double, simply the blinker notes. Enjoy opening day of the autumn meet at the Great Race Place. Post time for the first race. Start of the 50-cent early pick 5 in 58 minutes at 1 p.m. At this time, we go back to Quigley's Corner and Tom Quigley.
Welcome back. We're talking horses with the announcer for San Diego Park, Frank Mirahmadi. Frank, as we just saw on the scenic shot, a beautiful day here at the Great Race Place. Mid-80s, not a cloud in the sky, fast and firm conditions. Like you said, driving in, both of us drive in off the 210 freeway. It is just a sight to behold. We often talk about coming back home. This truly is home for both of us.
It really is. From the moment I was a little kid coming out to Santa Anita Park, and just to be here as an adult and part of the team here, it's just, look, you got to pinch yourself, and more importantly, realize that there's a lot of responsibility with that. And I'm excited and have looked at this card thoroughly. And my job now is to try to help the fans pick a couple of winners along the way. Let me make it crystal clear. My record at the betting windows is not one you would want to emulate in any way, shape, or form.
But it's not a function of profit or loss. It's a few nuggets here or there. You might come up with something that the people watching haven't thought of, and they might go back and take a second look at a horse. That's really what the seminars are about.
If we had the little graphic right now about the last 3 times I did a seminar with you, I've been on a roll. So knock on some wood here. Let's keep it rolling.
You know, we're joking around, but all kidding aside, what are some of the things you look at when you're handicapping? I know that I kind of put you in a spot where maybe you look at the races more today than you do on a normal race day. So when you kind of print the racing form and take a look at it, what are some of the things you're looking for?
The first thing I do is my most favorite races are the maiden races, Tom. So what I like to do is I like to look at the pedigrees. I like to watch replays. I find it comical when I watch racing analysts point out that they watched the replay. I sure hope you did. You know what I mean? It's like, please, I don't really
That's your job.
Yeah, it's like me saying I brought my binoculars to work today. Yes, exactly. So you need to watch replays. If you want to handicap properly, I firmly believe you need to watch replays. You need to understand what it was. And there's a perfect example of a race today. I may be wrong, but I'm going to show you there are 2 horses that are very close on the morning line. In fact, they're equal on the morning line. I'm going to tell you why I feel one is better than the other. And then there's the compelling argument as to why maybe the other one's better. So I'll show you why maybe those 2 are co-second choices in that particular race. But what I'm going to do when I handicap is first look at pedigrees, look at horses trying the turf for the first time, look at horses trying routing for the first time. That's very important. Look at company lines, and then look at productive races where there's one race today. I'm sure you know that all 3 horses to run back. There are 2 races that have such horses.
Yes,
all
sir.
3 of them came back to win in their next race. So that's important. And then look at, connections, look at trainer intent, and just try to assess the situation. I think the most difficult element for me in handicapping, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, is when horses are coming out of races that they were just all very dreadful. And now you have to decide who's the best of this, quote unquote, right? You don't want to take shots at people, but believe me, there's a race lacking some form on today's card. And so you have to try to assess who, and I pick a long shot in there because I can't pick the favorite based upon watching the replay. I'm not smart enough to be able to figure out, like, okay, against this softer group, this horse is going to jog. So I'm going to try to just look for a different angle in that circumstance. But I look at it thoroughly, and, winners win. You have to just face the truth. Winners win. The best trainers are going to win the most races. The best jockeys are going to get the best mounts. How about Juan Hernandez and the meet he had there? I've been talking about this guy for over 10 years. I remember seeing him at the big Fresno Fair when I met him there. And I told him what a great rider he was then. And the thing about him, there are certain races that you watch, and forgive me for not remembering their exact names. One was that Dean Pedersen horse that I actually thought lost that photo in that marathon race, won by a nose. He put him in every possible situation to win. Another one was a John Sadler horse in the opener one day. It was kind of like a, $30,000 or $40,000 claimer. He drifted a little wide, does everything he can to just, that's what makes the difference. Great jockeys can't make bad horses win, but they can make a difference in a race of a length or less or a couple lengths. And he does that on a regular basis. And we have a lot of other great jockeys here too. So Santa Anita has been known for the home of outstanding jockeys, and it's going to be a tremendous battle for leading rider again.
And behind every great jockey is also a great jockey agent.
Terrific.
And Juan Hernandez's agent is Craig O'Brien. Some of the books he's handled in the past include Eddie D, just right off the top of my head. So you know that he knows his way around the condition book and knows plenty of trainers. So it's a good tandem of both Juan Hernandez and Craig O'Brien, basically very live in almost every race. One more question for you, Frank, before we actually roll up our sleeves and get to handicapping. When you watch some of the replays, particularly the races that you've called, are you surprised sometimes of what the replay shows versus your recollection? In other words, in your memory, you might have thought something happened when you watched the replay. You're like, oh my God, I completely forgot about this.
It happens sometimes. I mean, generally speaking, I actually listen to, I listen to my own replays sometimes to just know what I said, and I believe myself. So if I see that there are times it's worked for me, and there are times like I thought a horse was really good. I remember one in particular that was in a rush one day several years ago, and I called a race down the hill when I was filling in many moons back. And I said, let me just hear what I said. And, oh, this horse will definitely win. Nowhere to be found. So it happens both ways. But yes, sometimes when you watch a replay, sometimes when you look at a chart, sometimes when you look at comments, things are not as they necessarily that you may appear. There's a race today where if I just looked at the paper, 100% I'm going to pick the Diodoro horse. But based on that last performance, I won't. But I'm just general handicapping. That's who I would pick, and maybe that would have been the way to go. It'll be very interesting to see how today unfolds, because I think I've prepared thoroughly for what we have coming up.
I know you've prepared thoroughly, that's for sure. We've got 22 minutes to go through 9 races, so let's kick things off in race number 1 for maiden claimers. $50,000 is the claiming tag. 1 mile on the turf is the distance. The rails today are at 20 feet, and also race 1 is a split of race 9. Same race conditions. We've got a field of 8. Morning line favorite in the current betting choice is number 4, Naismith, dropping down from the maiden special weight for trainer Richard Mandela. There's that guy, Juan Hernandez, in the saddle, 9-5 up on the board right now. Give us your thoughts on race 1, Frank.
Naismith certainly figures very prominently in here and deserves the role of favorite. And I have a strong angle that I usually will not go against, and that is when maidens take on winners and return to maiden company, I usually throw them out. But it's usually a circumstance in which they go to like a stake race, and then maybe they had their heart ripped out and they come back. But I think number 7, The Key is Unity, offers a little bit of an interesting perspective in race number 1. 5-1 on the morning line, 7-1 currently, trained by a very talented trainer who has been putting on clinics for decades, and that's Bill Spar. And The Key is Unity was claimed out of his second start over at Del Mar, and then freshened up for quite some time before returning to Santa Anita and running on the turf. It was not a bad effort. It was a race in which National Road made a big move and then just blew the field away. Like at the 8th pole, the horse wasn't even in front, took the lead, opened up, and won by many. Mow Them Down had a clear lead in that race. This horse ran okay. I'm not saying it was a great performance, but it was decent enough. And then I'm thinking that perhaps the comeback race was simply an opportunity because this horse was protected in the first start for the maiden 50 after the claim. Maybe it was just either A, get a race under the belt instead of a workout, or B, just give another test to figure out whether they go back in a claimer. I don't know about all that. I just know that the race last time can be thrown out as he was completely overmatched. I'll give him a slight nod. Naismith is the legitimate horse and most certainly the one to beat.
The Key is Unity, ridden by a relative newcomer here to Southern California. Hector Barrios plied his trade down in South Florida, then came to Del Mar and really put on quite a clinic, particularly on the turf course. He's a very patient rider who likes to save ground and then tip out at the top of the lane. He doesn't complicate things. He basically just, lets the horse basically guide him to wherever he's going to take him. And then basically, if he's good enough, he wins. And he won at a very high percentage down at Del Mar. It's good to see some new blood here in the jockey colony.
It's good to hear this amazing music in the background. It sounds like the band is right behind us.
It's just to distract you a little bit more.
That's okay. I can handle it. I learned that early on. You can be prepared for all noises, all sound effects that can come at any time. I agree with you on Hector Barrios. He made an immediate mark, and that's what you have to do. Joe Bravo did the same thing when he came to Southern California. He made his presence felt immediately and was able to do so. And it helped start, a great engine, because it's not easy to come into a new circuit, particularly Southern California. So I'm looking forward to having a chance to calling him. I've certainly been watching him for a long time in Florida.
Race number 2 begins the 50-cent early pick 4. This time we're on the main track. 6 furlongs the distance. Fillies and mares. $32,000 claimers. 9 winners of 2 races lifetime. A field of 6. The morning line favorite on the bottom, who just has 1 win, of course, in her career. Number 6, the 3-year-old Darling Donna. 8-5 on the morning line from the Vladimir Sarin barn. This might be the race that you were talking about with the Diodoro and a lot of uncertainty in terms of running lines.
It is very uncertain. This horse blew out some maiden 20s a couple of starts ago. Came into a pretty tough spot. It was a starter allowance 50. Last time out, showed some brief speed before fading. The horse who was on the lead in front of her opened up. Crimson Rose had a little bit of trouble, but I'd have to say it was just a little bit of trouble. It was a very poor performance out of her last time. She's definitely capable of better, as indicated by her performance at Churchill Downs, as well as her first effort at Del Mar. Look, horses, as Trevor Denman used to say all the time, are not machines. Anything can happen, and you could just sometimes draw a line. Maybe she didn't like being in a little bit tight early on, but she bowed out pretty badly. I would have normally picked Crimson Rose on top in this spot, but I'm going to pick number 2, Ana Volante, as my top selection. Claimed last time out, puts the blinkers on. She was on the turf. They tested it again. It didn't work. But if you look back, at one time she was good enough to win a maiden special weight at the fairgrounds. This is a very soft group in race number 2. And with the price of 8-1, I'm willing to take a shot. Do I love her? No, it's really more a defensive play against taking low odds on horses that, even though Darling Donna is drawn perfectly, she's got speed, she's on the outside, there are a lot of positives, and she certainly fits in this particular race. I'm not taking a short price on her, even if she's much the best. I'd rather take a shot. I'm going to go 2-1. But if you're playing the early, pick 5 or pick 4, this is almost an all race, and certainly one where you could go 3 or 4 deep. So I wouldn't toss those horses, but I would just think that this might be an opportunity to get a better price.
Race number 3 is still for fillies and mares. This time allowance optional claiming types, non-winners of 2 other than, and we're coming down the hillside turf course. 6.5 furlongs down the hill. We've got a field of 5 after the program scratch of number 1. Pammy's Ready, who will run in race 9 tomorrow here at San Anita. Maury Line favorite number 3, Bulletproof One, coming off the long layoff for trainer Peter Miller, is the 9-5 favorite. The only one in here for the optional claiming tag of 80. What say you about race 3, Frank?
This is a race where you need steam. I mean, if you know the Barbers or the Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners or Peter Miller.
What if you don't?
This is the time to phone a friend, because she has a lot of talent. Look, she's earned $400,000. She's won 7 of 16 races. She's extremely fast. She's never run down the hill.
Would you claim her today?
That's the question. Like, isn't she? Here's the thing. These guys both breed. Eclipse and Barber are both well-known breeders. Wouldn't they keep this daughter of Idiot Proof, who has been successful and has done well? Isn't she worth that amount as a broodmare to their multiple options as a stallion? That is the big question. But the other side is, the other equine poker is maybe it's a Barber single down the hill. Wave goodbye to this group. I'm going to pick the 5 Freedom Flyer.
You're not buying all that hooey, huh?
I don't know. She's so fast that she might just blitz them down the hill. But and I don't have a problem. A lot of people when they handicap, they don't like a horse maybe that is getting caught going 5 or 5.5 going further. I actually don't mind that, because sometimes the early pace won't be as intense, and so she could just get away with it. And this could be one of those things where down the hill you're thinking like, how dumb am I not picking this horse? You know what I mean? Like this is one of those races. But I'm going to pick against her. I'm going to go with number 5, Freedom Flyer, who I've always looked at these races down the hillside course as very similar to a mile. And that was verified many years ago when I heard Gary Stevens, Hall of Famer, say the same thing. And he's ridden down the hill many times. Chris McCarron.
More than you and I have.
Yeah, many. I haven't even walked down the hill. But so if you think about like what horse can almost handle a mile, is the same thing like 7/8 on the main track. You almost want a little route experience in you. Freedom Flyer to me fits that perfectly, because she has enough speed to stay close, not close enough to Bulletproof One. Like Bulletproof One at her best will jog. Like where she been, she's had a lot of layoffs. All of a sudden, everything's supposed to be fine in this long race down the hill. I don't know. If Freedom Flyer can stick close to her, I think this is a beautiful distance for her to be able to pounce inside the final 1/8 of a mile. She ran last time in the Burbank over at Santa Rosa, which is the Sonoma County Fair.
Yep.
I can tell you this. I haven't watched a race at Sonoma County Fair in quite some time, but historically speaking, that turf course has been kinder to closers going back. And this is going many years back, but I think that has been a relatively consistent element of that turf course. So she was right in there, ended up finishing a distant second. The winner came back to score again. I just think that her style suggests 6.5 is perfect. Juan Hernandez should have her in the right spot. I'm going to go 5-4 Sterling Crest with a nice win last time out at Del Mar, with the full understanding that from a defensive standpoint, if you're playing multi-race wagers, including Bulletproof One is not the worst thing you can do, because she's very quick. But I'm going to try to beat her. And I think Freedom Flyer is probably my second best bet on today's card.
The tidbits I spoke about in the opening, you never know when they might pop up. And there was one for Freedom Flyer talking about the nuances of the Santa Rosa turf course. Race number 4 begins the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Of course, we start fresh on opening day, and we kick things off sprinting 7 furlongs on the main track for $20,000 claimers. Non-winners of 3 races lifetime. The favorite is on the bottom, number 6, Conundrum. 6-5 on the Maury line. This is the one that exits that race that has had 3 next out winners. There's only been 3 runners to come back. They've all won. They've all been successful. But let's face it, Conundrum got his head torn off in that last race.
He really did. And let me tell you this, I'm a stubborn guy, just like a lot of handicappers are. When Conundrum won 2 starts ago at 6-5 in the opener at Del Mar, I felt it was the time to take a giant stand against him. And in the early stages, I felt like a genius. In fact, I was getting sore, patting myself on the back before he blew everyone away in the stretch, made that big move. So Conundrum is spotted in a place where he deserves to be the heavy favorite. I just, based on my own initial thought when he was a heavy favorite in a starter allowance, I might add, a much tougher spot than this. And he quieted me then. I can't go to him now. So I almost didn't even pick him in the top 2, but I thought that's rather ignorant to leave out Conundrum out of the top 2, because I'm probably going to lose some ground in my picking of winners here by not picking Conundrum on top here. But I'm going to go with the number 1, who is really not, like one of my stronger plays on the day. But I'm going to go with number 1, I Know Cash Flow, for a minor upset in here for trainer Peter Miller. Gets Abdul Al-Sagur in here to get the weight break. Juan Hernandez jumping off in this circumstance is what my guess would be. Like, he probably had enough of those gate antics that he went through last time on this horse. So, again, I don't go into this with any confidence whatsoever, but he did run on willingly. And typically when horses are terrible at the gate, which this horse certainly was last time out, breaking through and causing a delay and such, they don't run well. He ran on willingly, changed leads the right way, and he's run once at Santa Anita. It was a win. So I'll give a slight nod, realizing I probably have the wrong horse with number 1, I Know Cash Flow. I almost picked number 5, Butkus, second. So I would use the 1, 5, and 6 in the multi-race. In other way, if Conundrum doesn't win, it could even be Shady Empire, who likes it here too. But I'm just going to go 1, 6 as my selection process in race number 4. Not an easy race, even though the favorite on paper certainly looks like a standout.
Unlike Frank, if you do like Conundrum, here's a statistic that you might find worthwhile. According to Brad Free at the Daily Racing Forum, the Papadromo barn, 17 for 38, which is 45% with dirt sprint favorites the last 4 years. That's certainly the category that Conundrum fits in today. We'll see if Mr. Papadromo can add to that statistic.
I got a feeling he's singling his horse in that race.
Race number 5 begins the 50-cent late pick 5. Also, if you got a program, you'll notice that this race is named after the Fashionable Fillies event. So let's digress for a minute if we could, Frank. Obviously, the Fashionable Fillies event is being held here on track to honor 2 special people that are involved in racing either previously or currently. One is prominent owner JMS Stables, which is Samantha Segan. Also, Jane Goldstein, thank you. I wanted to say Dempsey. I knew that was wrong. So thank you.
Definitely wrong.
Yeah, so thank you.
Jane Goldstein, a legend here at Santa Anita.
I met her many, many years ago, and she's been instrumental in getting Santa Anita to the point where it is today. And of course, Samantha Siegel, we appreciate her support. But it's good to see an event like Fashionable Fillies on opening day here. People taking in the races, having some fun, and learning about our industry.
It's a big thing going on with the Women's Summit here this weekend. And I know that it's been very well received, and it's been just going off. Well, I'm getting great reviews from everyone. My better half has been attending on behalf of the New York Racing Association, so she has been there as well. Shannon Kelly of the Jockey Club is here, who's a superstar in this game. And
Stephanie Ronis.
Oh yeah, it's big. And I know that Amy Zimmerman from reports. Look, there's always whispers. There are no secrets in game. Yesterday. Had a very emotional tribute to Jane Goldstein, who started Amy's career many years ago here and had a tremendous influence on the entire publicity element of Santa Anita Park. So this is a big deal. And the Jockey Club Safety Net Foundation and the Fashionable Fillies event, part of this huge weekend for the women in racing. And it's been very well attended. And there have just been some great panels and some really good reports. So we're certainly honored to be a part of that.
And I will echo that. We are certainly honored to host both events. Race number 5, in case they need a winner for the event, Frank, begins the 50-cent late pick 5. We were back on the turf course for fillies and mares. This time, maiden special weight Calabreds, a field of 6, the Maury Lane favorite on the bottom. Number 6, a little bit crazy, 5-2 on John White's Maury Lane. A lot of different ways you can go here. Which way you going?
It's a very interesting race. It certainly is. I'm going to end up with number 2, Magic Game. Tom, this horse ran very well. She's a daughter of Flincher, and she fired a big shot at a huge price back in April, and she finished second to Queen of Pompeii. She then came back and kind of flopped and bounced in her second start when well bet, and then one more effort that was kind of lackluster, but she had a little bit of trouble in that particular race. I thought her last race at Del Mar was a very solid one. She came rallying very strongly in there, and this is the race that I had mentioned to you earlier about there are 2 horses, the 2 Magic Game and the 4 Finley's Kitten, that are exactly the same on the morning line. And I thought the better performance, without any question, of the 2 was Magic Game. That said, the asterisk / equalizer in this circumstance could very well be the fact that Finley's Kitten was first time for a new trainer, but much more importantly, first time off a very long layoff. And so she certainly has a right to move forward off what wasn't a bad effort. It's just that Magic Game finished better. But in the end, she only beat her by a length, and she was off for a long time. So I think it's a savvy co-second choice situation. And I'm going to go with, or co-third choice, I should say. But I'm going to go with Magic Game at the slight pick. The number 1 is a horse that I think is very, very dangerous. And
her name rolls off your tongue.
Of course.
I can't pronounce
Bonjour, is all I can tell you. Bonjour. La Deuxième Étoile. And the reason I don't pick her on top is my stubbornness on my angle that over the years will not pay off, which is horses that go to stakes and come back to maidens. But she takes the blinkers off. She's got good speed. She is very tough in here. Don't leave her off your ticket. I went 2-1 in the 5th.
Frank, there's no production meeting. We don't rehearse. We don't compare notes. That's obvious if you watch us on live TV. But I will tell you this. Interestingly enough, my notes in Formulator agree with your assessment of this race. Let me read to you specifically what I put into Formulator based on Magic Games' last race. I wrote, a bit unlucky to lose, has talent. And likewise, for number 4, Finley's Kitten, who you spoke about, exited the same race, I said, did not change leads, no excuse. Now, in retrospect, like you said, that was just her second off a long layoff. So maybe there was an excuse.
First race off a long layoff.
This is her second off the layoff. But nevertheless, maybe there is an excuse looking back in retrospect. But you know what the tape showed you, which is exactly what it showed me.
Seems better to me.
Correct.
That's my thought. But let's see if she can pick. Because the other thought is, okay, yes, it's a long layoff, but Vladimir Surin wants her to fire big right there. And he's lethal sometimes at Del Mar. So that's just a tough call between the two. But look, I remember watching Magic Games debut, and she looked like she could very well win it. And so I think that she's sitting on a big race.
We'll find out at 3:01 Pacific time. That's for sure.
Looking forward to it.
Race number 6, 50-cent late pick 4 time. Fillies and Mares, 1 mile on the main track, $16,000 claimers, 9 winners of 2 races lifetime, a field of 8. Morning line favorite number 3, Starship Sky from the Bob Hess barn. Big camera shy, just 1 for 25 lifetime. Is today cap and gown day number 2?
I don't believe so. She's all right. And I gave a slight nod to the horse that she finished ahead of last time in Awesome Pamela, who was wide in that event. Those two are very evenly matched. But the race that they both exit, there was a loose leader named Artis who just opened up and waved goodbye, and they could never get close to her. Awesome Pamela was making a little bit of move on the backstretch, but then flattened out, and Starship Sky actually outfinished her. But I'm thinking that perhaps in this race, we're going to see the same situation. So the great Professor Gordon Jones projection play of the day is going to be the 8 Liberalism, who is so much faster than any of these in the early stages. Will go to the lead from the outside under Ryan Curatolo for owner-trainer Reed Saldana from 1,000 yards to a mile at the Great Race Place. You know, you got to hold on to your hat inside the final 1/8 of a mile, because these are going to be some uncharted territories. But Liberalism should have such an easy lead that maybe she could just fend all of these off. It's a little bit of a crazy pick, but she's only 4-1 on Mr. White's morning line. Frank, no one does a better job at the morning line than Mr. White, so he knows what he's doing.
It's not that crazy. I actually like her on top as well. I looked at the pedigree. There is 1 2-turn winner on the dirt in the family as well. So this first time going 2 turns might actually be in her wheelhouse. I also like the outside post position, because that really doesn't leave Ryan any choices other than to flash early speed, which is exactly where we want her to be. 3 races to go and 5 minutes to do it. So let's take a look at race number 7. This race we're sprinting 6 furlongs on the flat turf course for maiden special weight 2-year-olds. We've got a field of 8. The morning line favorite number 2, Kizateka, 2-1 on the morning line. We also have a replay we want to show. Frank, do you want to show the replay first?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's
roll the replay.
So I told you I don't like horses that go into stakes races and return to maiden company. So my first goal here, and you're going to be watching Kid Azteca, is the number 10 horse in this race. I'm going to tell you this. This is the horse right on the outside of the leader. The leader of this at this point is a horse named Reincarnate, a very live first-time starter for Bob Baffert, who looked like he was going to make every polo winning one. Kid Azteca, I normally will not pick a horse who's a 4-time maiden for an outstanding trainer like Peter Miller, but the bottom line is he has been facing some tough company. Now, this is going a mile. He's returning to 6 furlongs today. He can't get by Reincarnate, who's a very tough customer. The horse who beats him was a horse who made his presence felt in the post parade for Michael McCarthy. Malibu Coast is going to run them both down. It was not a bad performance out of Kid Azteca, who ends up finishing 4th. Maybe he just doesn't want to go a mile. His debut was okay. He ran into a very nice horse named Sharp as Attack, who went to Monmouth and jogged in his next start. He was 3rd behind Paxa Wallop, who would be 1-9 against his field.
Came back and won a stakes.
What a nice horse he is for Jeff Mullins. So I'm going to say this is the most likely winner on the card, Kid Azteca, despite being an 0-for-4 maiden. Usually horses like this will win earlier. The 2 interesting horses that I thought on pedigree, and I almost picked the one first piece, but I just thought that's trying to get a little too, too much. Fantastic out of a point of entry mare, all turf on both sides there. And, a horse who showed a little more speed than is indicated. I thought he was interesting. So was the 4 Dr. Soulfire. But I think today is the day for Kid Azteca, 2-1-4 for me. But I might even single the 2.
Race number 8 begins the $1 Golden Hour Pick 4, a very popular wager, linking our last 2 races here at San Diego with the last 2 races at Golden Gate. Keep in mind, closing day at Golden Gate for a few weeks as they shift over to Fresno is this coming Sunday. So get involved in the Golden Hour Pick 4 today, tomorrow, and Sunday. And race number 8, we're sprinting 6 furlongs on the main track for non-winners of 1 other than allowance optional claiming types. Field of 5 after the scratch of number 5, Spite and Malice. Number 2, Red Line, who, if you paid attention to that particular day down at Del Mar in his last race on September 3rd, ran against a very heavy pro early speed bias and closed into it as a result of it. Also exits that key race that you and I have been talking about, Frank, is the even money morning line favorite. Another single here, you're looking elsewhere.
I'm going to try to beat him, but it's not easy to do because this horse on paper with the Beyer speed figures. Now I'm finding out that there was a bias that day that was no good. But, you know, the number 6, Traeger.
And let's watch the replay for Traeger last race.
I mean, he
broke his maiden very impressively.
He's the horse in the white silks. On the outside of him is a hyped-out Bob Baffert horse named Hopkins, who is making his comeback in his 1-2, as you can see from the graphics. Unable to get by a very professional performer here in Traeger, a son of Congrats, who is trained by Mark Glad. Didn't do anything in his debut when taking some money at 5-1. Came back and proved he could run. I like the way he pulled away. This is a whole other ball game here, but he is drawn cozily on the outside. Redline's going to be tough to fend off, but he looked like a pretty nice horse turning away a very expensive horse in the Bob Baffert maiden that couldn't get by him last time out on the comeback at 1-2.
The Traeger earned a Beyer speed figure of 79. You know, I don't question many things, but I think just visually looking at that race, Frank, and I saw it live, I thought the number would come back better than a 79. If, in fact, that proves to be right, and we'll find out from subsequent races from all the participants, maybe, in fact, we'll get a little bit of a price today on Traeger simply because of that understated Beyer speed figure number. Race number 9 closes out the day, and we close it out with a $5 Golden Hour daily double wagering. Similar concept. Last race here with the last race at Golden Gate, and race 9 is a split of race number 1. Maiden claimers, $50,000. Going 1 mile on the turf course, a field of 8. Number 3, Kazukio, a 5-year-old maiden who has certainly had plenty of chances, is a 3-1 morning line favorite. Give us a winner to close it out, Frank.
It's a very, very difficult race. There are several directions you can go in. I'm going to end up on number 6, Curly Issa, for the smiling trainer, Phil Oviedo. This man's always had a smile on his face from the moment I met him many moons ago at Turf Paradise and on the fair circuit. A great guy and a good trainer, and certainly hoping that he can get this W here. A horse stretching out. Look, it's a little bit of a stretch, but the Dam Classic Brit by To Honor and Serve, she was basically a router. She ran 6 times, a win, 2 seconds and a third. She did have 3 routes with 2 seconds and a third. It was at a very, very low level. So it's a stretch beyond, it's definitely a stretch, but he does have experience over this course. I'm a big fan of Munnings. Why not? You know, he's got a shot in this race, and certainly, you know, returning to the turf, he may get first run on some of these others. I think Kazuhiko is going to be tough late. And the 1, Natural Genero, for George Papapadromo, is another horse that merits consideration. I would say use the 1, 3, and 6, if not more. The good thing about this card, there are options.
Yes,
and
sir.
There are no, you know, there are a couple of heavy favorites on the morning line that could very well win, but there are many races today that are interesting in that you might get a little bit of a price, or there's several 3, 4, 5-1s in the same race that you can just kind of pick out of a grab bag.
Frank, you always put a smile on our face. Thanks so much for putting in the work today. Good luck up in the announcer's booth. 18 days here at the Autumn Meet, culminating the day after the Breeders' Cup on Sunday in early November. Best of luck to you, not only in your selections, but obviously on all your race calls throughout the meet, Frank.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for everything, and welcome back yourself. It's good to be hanging out with you right here, and certainly an honor to be with you on opening day.
And thanks to all of you for joining us on opening day as well. Hope you enjoyed the seminar. Next voice you hear will be Frank Mirahmadi, updating us with any late program changes. Have fun, everybody. Make some money, and good luck.
At this time, we ask that you please rise for our national anthem. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to opening day of the autumn meet at Santa Anita Park. The track is fast, turf course firm, with the rail on the turf at 20 feet. Here are the changes. First race starts the 50-cent early pick 5. No scratches or jockey changes in race 1. In the second, beginning of the early pick 4, once again, just the blinker note. In the third, program scratch of number 1, Pammy's Ready. The fourth race begins the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Fresh pool on opening day. No changes in race 4. In the fifth race, we welcome the Jockey Club Safety Net Foundation and the Fashionable Fillies event. Blinker note for number 1. Late pick 5 starts with the 5th. The late pick 4 starts with race number 6. In the late pick 4, first leg, number 1, Dashing Demi, 2 pounds over. Turning to race 7, just the blinker notes. 8th race starts the Golden Hour pick 4. Reminder about that wager. It links the last 2 races from Santa Anita Park with the last 2 from Golden Gate Fields. Scratch number 5, Spite and Malice. And the 9th kicks off the $5 Golden Hour double. No scratches or jockey changes. Enjoy opening day at the Great Race Place. Post time for the first is in 23 minutes at 1 p.m.